You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Curtis Archer, and I'm with Harlem Community Development Corporation. I'd like to take this time to really acknowledge and say that I'm thoroughly pleased that on Saturday, March 16th, our governor of the state of New York named Ms. Frida Foster chair of Harlem Community Development Corporation. I want to thank her for picking up the mantle where others might have run the other way. She has assumed the mantle, and I'm thoroughly pleased. Welcome, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I think I just got caught. That's what happened. But thank you very much. It's my honor. Well, I'm Frida Foster, Chair of the Harlem Community Development Corporation Board of Directors, and thank you all for being here. I want to begin by, I'm going to take a little point of privilege, and I want to begin by extending my sincerest appreciation to each and every one of our esteemed board members. Your unwavering commitment to our community's well-being is the bedrock of our success. And as we look ahead, it's important that we maintain open lines of communication and collaboration. I'm happy to inform you. I've had several conversations this past week, and I'm happy to inform you that in the upcoming weeks, we'll be performing a comprehensive review of our bylaws. It's essential that these foundational documents accurately reflect our organization's values and aspirations. And with this process, it's my hope that we will be able to confidently reaffirm our responsibilities as board members. We will be reestablishing dates for quarterly meetings, whether there are voting items or not. And for those among us who are interested in delving into finer details of our operations, we're establishing a committee dedicated to focusing on specific areas of expertise. This initiative will provide a platform for deeper engagement and collaboration. We will do this with the review and guidance of our foundational documents. I'm happy to announce that our CEO and Commissioner, Hope Knight, will be joining us at an upcoming meeting. Her presence will offer us a unique opportunity for direct communication and alignment between the board and executive leadership, further strengthening our organization's cohesion and effectiveness. Finally, let me share with you an exciting development. We're in the process of creating a centralized database, because I know how much we love all these papers. And And I know you have a special place at home for these papers, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a centralized database for historical documents. This repository will not only enhance transparency, but also facilitate informed decision-making by providing access to past insights and experiences. In closing, I want to thank each of you for your continued dedication and commitment to our shared mission. As you can see, we are in the process of righting the ship, and we need your help, input, cooperation, and patience. And together, I have no doubt that we'll continue to make a positive impact on our community and beyond. So thank you for allowing me this point of privilege, and now let's get to the business of cooperation. The directors have received the relevant written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. Consistent with the policy of our parent corporation, Empire State Development, we welcome public comment on the items on the agenda. After each item is presented and any comments are received from the directors, we will allow members of the public to provide comments. All comments should be limited to 2 minutes and should only address the item that is under consideration. Note for the record, the public was given the opportunity to comment on today's agenda items by submitting their written comments by 5:30 p.m. yesterday to hcdcboard@esd.in1.gov. For the record, there were no comments received from the public. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I would like to ask the directors if there are any potential conflicts of interest with respect to the items on today's agenda. Okay. Hearing none, the foregoing has been noted for the record. Our first order of business is the approval of the minutes for the directors' meeting on November 17th, 2023. May I have a motion for approval? So moved. Thank you. May I have a second? Thank you. Moved by Board Member Sutton, seconded by Board Member Holly. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. All right. Mr. Curtis Archer will now present the item for consideration today, the approval of Harlem CDC's fiscal year April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025 operating and capital budgets, approval of the weatherization division budget, and authorization to take related actions. Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just so you know, as I may have mentioned to folks before, this is one of the mandatory meetings that Harlem CDC must have before the enactment, the presentation and approval of ESD's budget. And so that's why we're here today. So Harlem's CDC approval of our fiscal year budget for 24-25 going to March 31st, 2025, operating and capital budgets, and approval of the weatherization assistance budget. I also have, if there are any questions, I have Ms. Rose Jeffrey, the corporate secretary, as well as, of course, Ms. Victoria Gordon, director of the weatherization assistance program. Contained in your minutes are those particular budgets being presented for the operating budget, or what we call the corporate budget through our Harlem CDC. We have a total of $1,079,888 there, with our total operating budget for that term that I mentioned of $1,345,392. Then, if we scroll over to our capital budget, which of course, as you know, which had been mentioned in one of our previous conversations about the need for Harlem CDC to relocate it for an abatement issue. We see that we have, in terms of legal costs, $125,000, and that remains steady and constant. Property management and maintenance costs, which, by the way, because we are in an OGS facility, those particular costs remain constant at $300,000. Insurance being $32,672, and construction costs being a total of $2 million, for a total budget for that year of $2,457,672. I can go into the weatherization budget if you like, right now. Okay.
Briefly, because the directors have had the materials, so I'm sure that if there are any questions. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mhm.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm looking. So I'm looking, I don't know.
Can you please state your name?
I'm sorry, yeah, well, we didn't begin. So Teresa Hassler, Office of Senator Cordell Clear. I'm looking at the proposed budget for 2024-25 for weatherization program, right?
Okay.
And that's what we're going over, right?
Good afternoon.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no,
I'm so sorry.
don't worry.
I apologize.
No worries.
No, it's not enough.
Intro. Oh, okay. Okay. After this, we'll do this.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So weatherization, just to be clear, the weatherization budget is not a state budget. It is a federal budget actually coming from the U.S. Department of Energy and Health and Human Services. It's a budget, and by the way, unlike the state budget, it's on a different cycle, by the way. Victoria, during this particular period when the budget was approved last time, as you noticed, we also had an increase in headcount. We have one additional, and that should be an outreach worker. Is that not correct? And so we see that the total weatherization assistance budget for the year, well, we have the personnel services being $1,024,523. With a total operating budget for weatherization. Remember, this covers not only, of course, the personnel, but also, unlike any other Harlem CDC services, we actually have vehicles. Okay, there are 3 weatherization vehicles that allow the staff to shuttle materials and supplies to the various work sites within our catchment area. And so that brings the budget totally to $2,862,251. That is what's being proposed. Now, and Ms. Gordon can probably answer any questions that you may have, because sometimes we've had to come before the board again if there's ever been an adjustment to the budget, to the number that was given to us by the federal. I rest.
Thank you very much. If there are any questions, please remember to state your name and who you might be representing. And now is the time for those questions.
Okay. Again, Teresa Hassler, I was sitting here clear. I was so excited. I love weatherization. So, looking at the budget this year, looking at next year, there's a head count from 7 to 8. And so I'm looking at the personal services. So I'm looking at maybe $200,000 increase from last year to this year. What salary line is that?
If I'm not mistaken, and Victoria, please weigh in, but am I looking at the combination of the two, the regular weatherization plus bill? Okay, explain what bill is.
The bill program is, actually the acronym is, stands for the Bilateral Infrastructure Law, which was passed by President Biden last year, where monies have been given across the country for shovel-ready projects. Weatherization is considered a shovel-ready project. So weatherization received $1.5 million additional to our regular WAP of $1.3 million for weatherization services. So that increase that is potentially there, it's not just only for the headcount, but it's possible that because we are implementing 2 programs, we may have to use some overtime dollars. Staff may have to be working on weekends. So we have that in the budget just in case, because we have to fund, everything total. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, somewhat. Somewhat.
And just so you know, the unit count for regular WAP, it was 198 units. Then adding on to the bill of what Victoria just described, it's an additional 200 units that will be affected by the weatherization assistance program.
Are there any other questions? I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry. Another question, Teresa. Yeah. Going down to non-personal services. subscriptions, online services, it's reduced. So it looks like it's increased almost twofold across the board, maybe just under that. But for online subscriptions, you go from 6,000 to 1,000. So I'm just trying to figure out how that's the only line that seems to go backwards or anything else is going forward. And it's not to scale, because even the increases from last year to this year are not to scale. So let me make a finer point. Are you planning on bringing on an additional staff person next year?
No. No.
Well, it depends on the workload. If, for example, the 200 units that we have to do for Bill, if we are lucky and we secure one building, 100 units, then that's doable with the staff that we currently have. If we are not able to secure one building for that amount, and we have to do 5 buildings, then we will have to bring on another construction manager just to manage day-to-day operations. So that's why, we can't say yet.
So it's a contingency.
It's a contingency, correct. And the money is there for us to use in the way that we need to use it.
Addressing Ms. Hassler's point in terms of 6,000 to 1,000 subscription, explain that.
Basically, some of the things that we were actually subscribing to, we no longer do it. We no longer have some of these online subscriptions. We've kind of tried to reduce and become a little more leaner, especially since, the dollars are, right now the dollars are fine, but, at any point they can be reduced. So we just.
You're not.
It's like
Got rid of.
Exactly.
One last thing, in terms of the catchment area for the weatherization assistance program, describe that, please. I know it, but please.
Our catchment area starts at 96th Street from the river to the park, Central Park, coming up to 145th Street, all the way from river to river. 45th Street, the middle of the street. So the north side is not covered by Harlem CDC. The south side is covered by Harlem CDC.
And just for clarification also, this is the one program that where a state agency, Empire State Development Corporation, administers another state agency, HCR's program. All the other, what we call sub-grantees, are nonprofit organizations. We're the only one that's unique.
Yes.
I'm still not done yet. But thank you, I appreciate that. So, let me look again. So let's look, what are other outside services? That's about $500,000 or $600,000 for other outside services. It's not specified.
Other outside services are all the contractors that work under different projects. You can't put a name and face to that because that's all as a result of bids that we do. So it's lumped into outside services because it's not personnel, which is internal, and everything else. Any contractor that we have to hire to do the work is considered an outside service. So that's why it's all lumped in the extra money.
So these are just projections.
But yeah, they're projections
of
for now.
RFPs that you
Other
have.
than, because the only thing that you show up is your personnel costs right now. We don't know what outside services are gonna be until we get bids.
So I understand what I'm saying is that this is a projection of RFPs that you've not put out.
Right.
Okay.
I would also encourage any board member, if they have an MWBE business, that might be a boiler guy, might be somebody who does windows, might be somebody who does the low-hanging fruit such as energy efficient lighting. If you have an MWBE contractor, please refer them to the weatherization assistance program, looking for those types of contractors who are certified to do the work.
State certified.
Say certified.
As opposed to state.
Ernestine Temple,
Yes.
representing Assemblyman Al Taylor. Can you share with me why the weatherization program does not go from 145th Street to 155th Street, please?
That was a decision made, the way that they allocated the whole New York City area long before my arrival doing weatherization. If you look, we used to have the map in here that showed our actual catchment area. This is something that was done in there's legislation, with ACR. So if we wanted to move our catchment area up, we would have to actually apply to ACR to do that. But remember, there's another nonprofit that's in charge of that area. They're not gonna let their area go. They're gonna, they wanna come maintain, because the size of your area and the census tracts in your area determine the kind of funding that you get. So, that's where we are.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Any other discussion? Can I
Since
vote?
I didn't see.
Okay.
Let me just wrap this up.
You do you.
So one of the issues I know that the senator brought up when she was here last year, when the weatherization was discussed, and I think it was July meeting, was MBWE participation. I'm glad you brought that up, Curtis. And really wanting to emphasize, not just, which is a fine solution, refer people to us, but actually getting out there and saying, we're here, we're available. This is it. So I'm saying agency perspective in this budget. I don't know if it's in here someplace, but can we discuss maybe some sort of marketing or external affairs for this program? This is a very important program. It could be lucrative for a small business, especially minority-owned business. So I guess I'm curious, in this budget, is there any sort of consideration for some sort of marketing or external affairs to the Harlem small business minority community?
Well, the state does not give us money to market the program. We market the program because we have to market it in order to meet our contract goals. So anytime there's any community activity going on, we try to send our staff. We are in the website, newsletter. We used to have our weatherization day activities downstairs in the courtyard downstairs. So, I mean, but there are no actual dollars allocated in the budget for marketing of the program per se.
Is there someone who's responsible for external relations? I mean, I know you have the outdoor activities and newsletter mentions, but is there really, I guess, someone on staff whose job it is to make a concerted effort to make sure that the community is aware?
There's nobody in the weatherization department that is tasked with that job. However, it's one thing to say that we are going to outreach to minority companies, because we have a contract goal that includes having a certain amount of minorities as a percentage of our overall budget. However, I will tell you that we make targeted phone calls to every minority that's on the ESD list that we have been provided. And they assure us that they will bid. And the day of the bid, they don't show up. Or if they show up, they don't submit a bid. We are tasked with calling them when the bid is due to confirm whether or not they are going to show up at the conference before they bid, and or whether they're going to submit a bid. And to this day, and I've been doing this for 13 years, to this day, we have 2 minority contractors that respond to lighting, which is the easier of all of the other trades. And in a lot of ways, they still never are able to fully. We had a minority last year that did pretty well, and they were not even state certified, so I couldn't get the credit for that. They were only city certified.
Has there been any study on why this continues to happen?
We don't have the resources to do the study.
So it sounds like you could use partnerships, like some of the organizations and things
Most
around.
definitely,
Right.
Because I have a goal. We have a goal to reach about 30% of our contract is supposed to go to minority. And that's why I know what we do, because we actually keep a log of what we do, our outreach efforts in order to make sure that we can reach minorities. The fact that they don't respond, and as I think I mentioned this before, one of the impediments to them responding is the insurance requirements that the state has. So, they will come, they will look, and then they don't make. I can't make them big.
So it seems like those of us around the table who are affiliated with folks with MWBEs and folks of that nature that can assist in trying to get this word out and whatever the challenges that they face, that's another thing that we can consider doing.
Thank
Right. Can I get Keisha and then Holly?
I don't even remember. Sorry, my last thought on this is, and it's a question and you no need to respond. I'm happy if you need connection with HPD, perhaps I'm sure you have these connections as well, but perhaps HPD can, direct you to some of the contractors in, in their kind of, wheelhouse, if you will, who provide some services that you find more difficult. But it sounds like the bigger issue is the insurance requirement.
And they might only be city certified.
No, I knew that was gonna be potentially an obstacle. But just wanted to offer that, and perhaps the insurance, like we could be having a larger conversation about, the extent to which the insurance requirement is unduly burdensome. And, I don't know. I'm not in this space, so I don't know, but I'm wondering if, that is something that could be brought up at the ESD level. So I'll put a pin in that. I did have one question, and it was, about the other outside services. Is it possible to get, I understand why you can't present what that breakdown is for 23, 24, and obviously 24, 25. But can we get what that breakdown was for, or have we already gotten, I don't recall, what that breakdown was for 22, 23, et cetera, so that we can see what this, $1 million, the largest line item, how that has been allocated in the past, just, I, as a fiduciary, as the largest line item to be something that we can't pin down, we can at least ask to look back, to understand how that largest line item was allocated. So I think that would be important to share with the board.
So my bill of record, whatever it is that you need to be able to go through the channels to request it, and you
So you're requesting for those.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we could just get a summary of the most recent years, how that was allocated,
Yeah.
just so we
Who the
can
vendors
see.
were, yeah.
Yeah, and, like what the total was and how it was allocated.
What MWOBs, yes.
Yes, that part.
Okay.
Can you tell me again those years, 22, is that for 22?
So yeah, 22, 23, I think 22, 23 would be the most recent that, there you go, 2 years. 21, 22, 22, 23. And then we'll have the 23, 24 come July. We'll be able to know in July what the 23, 24 was. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Holly.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up the point that, there's always been a lot of outreach for MWBs on the city and state level. I used to have first, I sponsored them myself.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lack of, interest in being an MWB by small contractors because of the fact of the back office work, the insurance, and secondly, they really don't want anybody. And that just, they feel like this is a government oversight, and who knows what they do. Some people that pay cash. I've seen guys with, undocumented workers work, and so they kind of stray away from any kind of organizational involvement in what they do. And that's really it. If you look at all the license, all the MWBE construction, et cetera, related people, you'll see a lot of them are with big organizations. There's not a lot of small organizations involved with that, and that's mainly the reason we don't have a lot of that participation. You have ads on television, you have, symposium. We had, what was the gentleman's name? He said he could get somebody approved in 72 hours. So it wasn't a 6-week wait. But you understand what I'm saying. But the fact is that it's been streamlined enough to attract someone that was interested. The fact is you have a lot of people that are not interested. And it goes with a lot of the things, like when we look for outreach and employment. We used to ask for 35%, we got 3%, we were lucky. And then people get hired. So it's just, I don't know what would bring someone around to be an MWBE, If they feel that they're doing all right, yeah.
I think investment in us, and I know this is not, budget, we kind of gone on it. I think for me, like, I don't know if that's every minority. I don't know if it's everyone in my business and, because I don't know all of them. And I think that if this is a consistent issue, as far as 13 years since Victoria's been here, you've seen things, everybody's seen things, then it's past time for either a study or a change.
Yeah.
I mean, a symposium sounds really boring to me. And as much as I would like to make money sitting in, Columbia University's auditorium for 3 hours at a symposium about how I can maybe get a percentage sounds like. So I think that it's probably time to look at the book and like rewrite the plays a little bit.
May I have Victoria weigh in?
Okay, I just wanted to add one thing. We have had minority contractors that are city certified. And we have the minority staff, minority women staff here to make them state certified. And we have tried to bring them into the office. The very contractors that realize that they're bidding on our work. And I say to them, hey, you can even get more work from the other agencies if you come to the office and make your appointment and get your state certification, and they don't follow through. And I give their names to the state, to the staff that we have working here, that's certifying them statewide. And it's because they just have a resistance to the paperwork, for what's needed. And so you find that they're satisfied. They did one level, which is the city, and they don't want to.
I'm not gonna make any promises on
Teresa,
and I appreciate this. What I'm getting is you have to do things differently or consider it. Over the years, what have we started saying with officers and elected officials? Office hours, right? I gotta come to the state office building, show my ID, come upstairs, sit up. Everybody's not gonna operate. That's not how it goes nowadays. Like, so maybe ESD should consider, not just for this program, for others, go outside, set up, budget, this is budget related. Computer software equipment, $3,000 to $20,000. Right? Get some tablets. I don't know what $17,000, what you're gonna do with one, you wouldn't have $17,000 for that one line item. Make it easy to be out, make it easy to be remote.
I think the thing is, historically, MWBEs have just been a little challenging.
So that's
and
our history.
Well, that's true. And I think that with the help of the entire community, including the elected officials and the special organizations and whatever, I think that is the key. I think that this has been a conversation since the beginning of time. How can we get MWBEs better, equipped to do all of the things that is necessary to have businesses? Because it is the paperwork. They don't have staff like that, so I don't think it's the responsibility or the onus on one organization. I think it's the entire community making it something that, we can continue to lift up our small businesses and our minority
I speak for my principal, and this is what my principal would say. So I'm not putting it on ESP. What I'm saying, and this is a community focused group, a community focused conversation.
Correct.
So I'm not saying anybody at this table has to go. I'm saying this is where we have to have the idea. So when we come back next year for the budget, we won't be having the same conversation.
Well, I submit that this is a conversation that we need to put on the agenda for one of these meetings where we can have robust discussion about what steps and what resources we can actually, use and move forward and make a plan.
No, we're on a budget. So this is $500,000 worth of plan. Right?
Okay. I would like Keith.
Yeah, very briefly, I've seen the MWBE issue from all different sides. And yes, I don't want to put it, first of all, the city MWBE process is less onerous, much less onerous than the state process. Now, I would say I've been frustrated by the state. I would not put it on the folks that are applying to get those MWBEs. I would venture to say that the state frustrates them.
Yeah.
The state process frustrates those folks that are trying to get the MWBE certification. So I agree with you that we may have to look and see how this process can be improved on all sorts of levels, on the community level as well as the state level. And I understand as taxpayer money, we have to be very, very careful with this. But we also have to get our folks. One of our missions is economic development. We have to get our folks to get certified. And it's become, so I wouldn't put it on the folks trying to get certified. I mean, the process is very, very frustrating. And I've seen it when I was an elected official in this community for 24 years. And I've seen it on the other side in terms of trying to help folks get the MWB certificate. So yes, I do agree that this whole thing needs to be examined. It needs to become less onerous, from both sides.
Keisha, then Curtis.
Super quick piggyback. They're entrepreneurs, greatest resource is their time, and pulling them away from, securing financing, doing sales, managing teams, is really hard. And so I agree with both of what you just said in terms of let's talk about, let's look at how this process could be less onerous. And with you, in terms of making this an agenda item, I think it's really important.
Yes, I agree with that as well.
Thank you.
This is the last comment that I think I'll have. That when we talk about, let's say, just coming out of the community. So, for instance, I got a call from Save Harlem Now, right? And they specifically wanted someone to come and speak about the weatherization assistance program. I routed that email conversation to Victoria, so staff will be assigned to come out and speak to them specifically about the program. And as you know, Keisha, because we don't work just 9 to 5. We work on weekends as well. So I was at a meeting, when was it? On Saturday, that's right, at the Riverbank State Park, at the Robert Smith Pavilion there, and talked about Harlem CDC. It was the Harlem Arts Alliance roundtable.
Yeah.
So, it was good because I love talking about Harlem CDC. I just do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and from that particular conversation also came interest in one of the programs that's contained in the President's report, and that, of course, is CERPS, Community Economic Revitalization Support Program. Those are the funds from, Columbia. With that, like I said, I immediately got that thing, did what I do in terms of doing an email between the prospective organization as well as the gatekeeper for the program, Jared Wright, and it's wonderful. So us going out into the community, speaking about who we are, that's the best thing that we can do. So I encourage all of the elected official members around the table, if you need us and you want to know more about Harlem CDC, just hit me up, call me, and we will absolutely respond, and we'll make a time for us to come out and speak publicly about our programs and services. As a matter of fact, we got Earl, we got Ema, we got Pedro, who are, if you don't know these people, you need to know them, okay? We got Earl, runs the small business unit of Harlem CDC. Ema, community development, right there. And then we have a HUD certified counselor right there in Pedro Hernandez. All of them right there who want to talk, and we got upcoming webinars and seminars in person that will be happening, that we'll tell you about more.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much. Yes, Sean. Yeah.
I just have a question.
Yes.
So it was noted that there are federal dollars that are part of this program. So I just wanted to know if there had been a question, because I understood that there are no resources to do kind of a research and study. Has there already been a question at the federal level to ask what resources they may have to assist on getting MWBE state certified? Maybe some best practices from them or some programs that they might have in order to assist them?
As far as federal dollars?
No, in terms of USDOE, do they have best practices? Do they have a program that they are already utilizing to increase MWBE participation?
I am not aware of them having best practices to increase MWBE participation, because remember, this is the federal level. They basically have dollars for the program, and HCR, which is the grantee of the dollars, will then say, okay, but remember they're allocating the money throughout all of the 54 sub-grantees in New York State. So it's not really coming from the federal government, DOE, to say, well, okay, they have money for MWBs, but that's not one of their concerns as far as weatherization is concerned. It's a concern for the state, New York State. And so there's where we would have to look for lobbying for dollars or something like that, not from the actual feds. If you understand my question.
It didn't necessarily, I can follow up with you offline. Okay. To clarify the question.
All right, wonderful. All right, folks. Are there any other questions?
Just remember these two names, embedded at Harlem CDC, one of the best NWBE certification people, Brian Cook, and the other being Elaine Caesar. Brian Cook, Elaine Caesar. They're known in the community. Anybody who has worked with them and says that they can hold your hand through the onerous process. They can hold your hand through that. And so I encourage you to reach out if you have any questions.
In our repository, we will make sure that we have a contact list of all of the staff members so that we don't have to search around for phone numbers and things of that nature. And that is coming to a computer near you.
Okay.
Okay, Earl.
I was gonna pass, so I'll take it.
Yeah.
I just want to say something to the whole board. As we build a lot of infrastructure here now, with the team members that we have, complemented by the wisdom that we have from folks who were here before, and you guys, we really need you guys. I think the outreach piece, we're gonna be tapping you a lot more. Like, we're being really intentional about having data. So I think we do need to go to every level of government to see what the best practices are. So we will be doing that research moving forward, and using the information that we have from before. A lot of stuff is just get digitized, so we're learning about that stuff too. But I want to just second what you, Teresa, have said about just doing more. We do take that stance. We will try to do more. We will move forward with being more intentional, being on the ground, and just tap in more. I think we can do more. So just want to make sure we understand that. We're on the same page with that.
Thank you. We can do more in 24. Okay, let's have. All right. This is a great discussion, but we do need a motion. Can we have a motion to approve the budget if all hearts and minds are set? Yes.
I said,
Wait. Okay. Was that a motion?
There was a motion.
Keisha? Not right now.
No.
Okay. Keisha, put the motion.
No.
Have you had a problem hearing us? Have you had a problem hearing us? You hear clearly. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, we have a motion on the table from Keisha. We have a second in from Holly. All those in favor of approving the budget that was just presented?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That item passes. The next item on the agenda is the president's report, and it's for informational purposes only.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is contained in your packet. If you have any questions specific, I'll be happy to answer them. Any highlight that I could just point out is that in last year we had a total of 69 applications for the grant program that I mentioned. There were 69 approved. And of that, there was a total of $707,747 awarded. Thank you.
Thank you. Directors, before we adjourn to go into our executive session, I would like to do a roll call so we can go around the room briefly to say your names and if you represent a particular elected official, as well as if you are a community member. And I will start with our legal.
Good afternoon, everyone. Carlene Turner Beverly, serving as the CDC counsel, also senior counsel at ESD.
Joshua Bloodworth, I'm here observing for ESD. I'm the president general counsel.
Teresa Hassler, Office of State Senator Cordell Clear.
Holly Joseph, director.
Mackie Bentley, Office of Assembly Member Daniel O'Donnell.
Bijan Small, representing Eddie Gates.
Keith Wright, representing Council Member Youssef Salam.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Terrell Brock, and I'm representing State Senator Jose Serrano.
Hello, everyone. My name is Terrence Cho, and I'm with ESD Real Estate, and I've been managing the Victoria Theater Project.
Hi, my name is Francisco Blanco, and I'm representing Deputy Speaker Diana Ayala. Oliver Batanzas, excuse me, Oliver Batanzas, representing Sean Abreu, council members.
Yolanda Ford, representing Superintendent Adrian Harris, Department of Financial Services.
Vaughn Mays, representing New York State Assembly Member Inez Vickens.
Keisha Sutton James, representing Manhattan Borough President Mark Lee.
Shauna Marks, representing Congressman Abiano Espaillat.
Ernestine Bell Temple, representing Assemblyman Al Taylor.
Curtis Archer, Harlem Community Development Corporation.
Rose Jeffrey, Corporate Secretary, Harlem CDC. Victoria Gordon, Director of Revitalization, Harlem CDC.
Pedro Hernandez, Senior Manager of the HUD Certified Housing Counseling Program at Harlem CDC.
Ema Oria, Project Manager, Community Development and Administration at Harlem CDC.
Will McGraw, Director of Community Relations at ESD.
Anna Pisior, SVP Community Relations at ESD.
Thank you all very much. Okay, as we know, this meeting is scheduled to go to 1 o'clock. And so under the open meetings law, a public body may go into a closed executive session to, among other things, discuss matters related to the purpose, sale, or lease of real property where publicity of the proposed discussion might impact the value of the real property and related negotiations. Due to the sensitive nature of the ongoing negotiations between the developers and ESD pertaining to the Victoria Theater project, this subject matter is appropriate for closed discussion during executive session. I will now entertain a motion to go into closed executive session to discuss matters pertaining to the status of Victoria Theater project negotiations. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, we are now.
Executive session.
The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return.
Thank you. For the record, no votes were taken in executive session. Director Sutton has a question related to the previous president's report.
Yeah, it was a quick question. I know the SURF grant, I see what has been granted. Is this 700,000, et cetera, roughly, is there like a certain amount that we don't get each year, or?
Depending on the number of applications that we received. One of the things that we did recently change some of the criteria. So normally in any given year, a organization coming to us, the max had been 50,000.
Right.
We've reduced it to 40,000. Right. But we still also have the areas of granting will be, of course, projects, special events, and of course, the low-hanging fruit galas. And the gala amount is 25,000. And one of the architects of us is Ema Oria. Yeah, that's.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. There being no further business, may I now have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
May I have a second? May I have a second? Yes. Okay, may I have a second? Somebody move.
Second.
Yeah. All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Thank you.
Good job, man.